Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Small Business Workshop. My name is Mariela Osario, and I'm the Career and Small Business Specialist at the Long Branch Free Public Library. Thank you so much for joining us. I must admit, I'm very excited about our guest presenter today, Kari Martin. She's going to be discussing breaking down New Jersey's single-use waste reduction law and how it impacts your business. But before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that we are recording this event. After the event, I'll be more than happy to share the recording with you. Just reach out to me, or those who registered will automatically get a copy of it. We do upload this recording to the library's YouTube channel, as well as our website. So if you know of anyone who may benefit from this workshop, please let them know. Visit our website, go into the Career and Small Business tab, and you'll see it, or just go to YouTube and type in Long Branch Free Public Library, and you'll see all our videos uploaded there. I also want to remind you that Kari will be happy to answer any questions or comments that you may have. We do leave the Q&A session towards the end of the presentation, but in the meantime, if you do have a question, feel free to use our chat or our Q&A as we go along, and Kari will be happy to address your comments and your questions towards the end of our presentation. Right now, I am I'm going to share my screen with you, so bear with me 1 second. I had my PowerPoints. See, this always happens. I don't see it. Okay, I am so sorry. I'm just going to have to wing it here, people. I thought I had my my slide, but I don't see it, so forgive me for that. But I am very pleased to introduce you Ms. Kari Martin, who is the Clean Ocean Action's Advocacy Campaign Manager. Now, Kari originally joined the COA staff in 2000 as a college intern. In 2001, she joined the staff full-time, focusing on outreach and education. Her exceptional talents enabled her to grow the position, ultimately becoming Policy Outreach and Communications Director. Having met her future husband while staffing a COA table, Kari left her position in 2009 to raise a family. Later, she joined COA's Board of Trustees from 2015 through 2019. Kari rejoined the COA staff in 2019 to focus once again on education. After 1 year, it became clear that Kari's expertise and interest turned once again to grassroots organizing and advocacy. Kari is developing advocacy and outreach campaigns on ocean pollution issues in her current position. Kari did receive her Master's of Science degree from SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry, with a concentration in environmental policy and democratic processes. Her master's thesis developed from her experience as a summer intern for COA. She received her undergraduate degree from Alfred University with a double major in environmental studies and political science. Kari is a diligent advocate for the environment, especially the ocean, and is committed to educating and engaging people of all ages in improving and protecting our watery world. So help me welcome Ms. Kari Martin. Kari, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mariela, for having Clean Ocean Action participate in your workshop and webinars to inform our local communities about important issues that they have to deal with in their daily life. So I'm very happy to be here, and I will be sharing my screen to present some information to you. Okay, so as Mariela said, that I'll be talking to you about and with you about the single-use waste reduction law that was passed recently in New Jersey and how that affects citizens and businesses alike, and how we can help comply with the law and also in turn protecting the environment and ocean simultaneously. First, let me just Meryl, did talk about a little bit about my position at Clean Ocean Action and what I do, but as an organization, we were founded in 1984 by our current executive director, Cindy Ziff. We're a nonprofit organization based right there in Long Branch along by Seven Presidents Park. We focus on water quality, specifically the Atlantic Ocean and the waters off the New York, New Jersey coast called the New York Bight. We organize, we educate, we motivate anyone that benefits from a clean ocean, and that is really everyone from organizations, businesses, educators, and citizens. Over the years, we've worked on campaigns and issues to stop ocean dumping. In 1984, when our organization started, there were 8 ocean dump sites, legal ocean dump sites, off the coast of Monmouth County in New Jersey. We worked with our coalition members to stop ocean dumping and close those dump sites. We monitor for other polluting activities in the ocean, including offshore energy development, such as oil and gas and liquefied natural gas. And also recently, the new development of offshore wind off of our coast, for which we have questions for, and want to make sure that our environment is kept clean after all the years of working for that goal. We promote clean water quality through adherence to stormwater rules and monitoring for water quality issues, specifically in the Two Rivers area and northern Monmouth County. Many of you may remember this past spring when we had a massive fish die-off due to a bacterial infection in the fish. So we monitor water quality issues in our local waterways in the ocean when we take action to reduce climate change impacts. And today, specifically, I want to talk to you about how we need to reduce sources of marine debris and litter that impacts our coast and our communities. Overall, we have some programs to address all of those issues and to educate people about those issues and engage them in the solutions. Specifically today, I'll be talking to you about the beach sweeps as it relates to our program to educate people about marine debris, but as it ties into the laws that are created, such as the statewide law on single-use waste reduction. So unfortunately, litter is everywhere. Pretty much most communities you could walk and find litter, spot it in parking lots, driveways, fields, and roadways, and in waterways. These are some pictures that are the reminders of our single-use waste habits and use and consumerism in our region, and evidence of the pollution problem. There's everything from things that are big, like the water bottles that are single use, but also plastics. The plastic pollution crisis is also as tiny as these pieces you see here, and those are called microplastics. So plastics never take a long time to break down, hundreds of years in some case, and break down into smaller pieces and invade our waterways and our communities and our ecosystem, causing harm to marine life and wildlife. So the pollution problem is near and far, and the impacts are as well. The impacts that we see from litter and single-use waste items are clear. The impacts on turtles, sea turtles, seals, birds, and these are some pictures of some of the debris found during cleanups and seeing marine life and wildlife out there. We have fishing line. The bottom is a picture of a turtle washed up with a plastic bag stuck in its mouth. The far right picture, bottom right, is this bird that has been found dead with lots of bits and pieces of plastic in its stomach. So this a plastic pollution problem affects small animals as well as big. Perhaps many of you have heard of some of the whales that have washed up on beaches in the world that have pounds and pounds of plastic in their digestive systems. So it's a human-caused pollution problem, but it also can be a human solution for humans to participate in. So not only do we have this material out there, we have to do something about it. It has to go somewhere, and many of us throw it in the trash, hopefully, and if it does, it goes in the right place. But if it doesn't, and sometimes it gets blown away or left in the environment, it gets stuck in trees and stuck in the environment and clogging our waterways. But so the impacts of the land in our communities is not only just litter, but these single-use waste items are created using resources, whether it's water and finite materials. But we also have a problem with landfills filling up, because that is the location of where all of this garbage goes. Single use is made for one time or a couple of times, and it's mindlessly thrown away. People don't know how much they're creating and where the stuff goes. But in most cases, it goes to a landfill. This is a picture on the bottom right of the Monmouth County Reclamation Center, was the landfill in Monmouth County. And they're all filling up. And we also have problems with the air pollution that are coming from the landfills that are degrading and collecting the gases that are coming off of the decomposing materials and releasing into the air. We have truck traffic bringing all this garbage filled with single-use waste in our garbage to these facilities. And we also have the growing cost to businesses and towns of getting rid of all this garbage and all this recycling and all this plastic waste that are pretty much used only once. So one of the programs that Clean Ocean Action has, and perhaps many of you have participated in, has been our Beach Sweeps program. In 1985, we established this program that is a biannual beach cleanup up and down the coast of New Jersey to reduce and eliminate sources of litter through education and action. Volunteers come to the beach, they clean it up, they write down the information about what they're finding on the beaches and how much they're finding on the beaches, so that we can collect this data and put it to good use by enacting ordinances or laws and policies to help reduce the litter found on our beaches and the debris in our waterways and communities, and to create laws and policies to prevent this material from getting out there. So just quickly, so our report from 2019, which is the most comprehensive, because in 2020, one of our beach cleanups was canceled due to the pandemic. So the most complete set of data we have most recently is from 2019, in which we had over 10,000 volunteers at 2 beach cleanups that year, collecting nearly 500,000 pieces of debris in a 7 hour time period. 83% of that debris were plastic, and that includes foam as well. We reached a record number of plastic pieces found, which was an increase of 26% from the previous year. The Dirty Dozen are the top 12 items we find. 93% of it were plastics. And we also have a roster of the ridiculous, which surprised and astounds many people because they can't believe what they read that we found on our beaches. But we did find a diamond ring, which was returned to its owner through a fantastic process of good social media use. But the message here is that the information that's collected has been directly used to create laws to help reduce the amount of stuff we're finding on our beaches. Just visually, you could see this big blue area is the total amount of plastic, and then plus the foam plastic is the amount of plastic found during our 2019 cleanup. And our Dirty Dozen can show you that 93% of it were plastic materials, from plastic pieces and caps and lids to wrappers and bags. Cigarette filters, many people don't realize that that is a plastic material. The filter inside is a plastic material. And then we also have, of course, beverage bottles and cigar tips and other types of plastics. Specifically comparing one year to the next, what we are finding is that single-use waste items are on the rise. Foam food containers increased by 38%, and also food and candy wrappers and cigar tips, which are plastic, increased by 43%. So we have a growing supply of single-use waste items to the stream of debris found on our beaches. And as I mentioned earlier, every person that goes to the beach cleanup gets a data card and a pencil to work with our group, and they write down everything that is picked up. So we know at the end of the day and at the end of the year how much was picked up at our beach cleanups. And that information has directly translated into local ordinances, statewide bills, and federal bills that have addressed sources of pollution that different items are finding on our beaches and in our communities, and regulating them so that we can reduce this amount on our beaches and in our waterways. So for instance, we've had 57 municipalities pass a single-use waste ordinance in the past few years, which created the momentum to get a statewide bill to do the same thing. So it's more uniform across the state about the regulations on these types of materials. So we did work with many organizations and communities to push for the Single-Use Waste Reduction Act, which was passed, and I'll go over that in a few moments. But the idea here is the beach sweeps and your visual assessment of your communities show that plastic pollution is a problem, and we can have policies in place that can inform people about the way to reduce this amount of material being used and discarded properly, and then also making sure that our communities are left clean by doing so. So just quickly transitioning from the signs and the evidence of the problem to the actual solution, part of the solution being the policy solution. In November 2020, Governor Murphy signed the Single-Use Waste Reduction Law, which many shore communities supported and had their own local ordinances for. It is the strongest single-use waste reduction measure in the nation. It's designed to reduce the single-use waste items that we've been finding and identifying in our communities and what we use every day. Thinking about all the items that you use during one day, be mindful of what are the single-use items, what are they made out of. So this law will hopefully reduce the amount of those items being used and distributed as well as discarded. It also creates a plastic advisory council, which has yet to be formed as the law was just passed last year. But this will be able to be an entity that can review what's going on with the law, how is it working, how is the compliance, and reviewing new information about alternatives that are out there, and being able to educate businesses and communities about how this law is moving forward and how it's being complied with. And that is through the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. So this is very timely because we are going to be experiencing the first part of the law going into effect as of November 4th, 2021. So just a short month and a half from now, and part 2 goes into effect in 2022. Specifically, breaking down the law, what the Single-Use Waste Reduction Act does is that it prohibits, specifically about bags, plastic bags, it prohibits stores from providing these bags at the point of sale, at the carryout to customers. And it also prohibits grocery stores over a certain square footage, about 2,500 square feet, from providing single-use paper carryout bags to customers. So this law will promote the sale of reusable bags at the point of sale at stores, retail stores, food stores, and those types of facilities to reduce the amount of plastic bags we find in our communities. I heard someone recently call plastic bags found in trees like the New Jersey flag. It's terrible. They're invasive. They're in our communities and they cause problems to our wildlife. So this law is sweeping. It's one of the best in the nation. And while businesses may think and citizens may think, what am I going to do now? Reusable bags have been available for quite some time. And there are other countries and states that also have these bag bans. New Jersey goes a step further by prohibiting the paper bags, primarily because it uses a lot of water and resources to make those bags. So the idea here is to change the behavior, which is a simple behavior of just getting the reusable bags and bringing them to the stores. And then also for the second, I'll skip over to the styrofoam. The styrofoam ban it prohibits the businesses that sell and provide food products from using polystyrene foam foodware containers, the styrofoam, so the clamshells and things like that, because styrofoam is it's not really recyclable. It lasts for many, many years and breaks down into pieces, and it has been found in the stomachs of animals. And it's really, unhealthful in terms of putting hot foods and cold foods in for the leaching factors of plastics into our foods. And the third part of the law is the plastic straws. And it prohibits all food service establishments from providing single-use plastic straws unless a customer requests one. So there are some people with disabilities that require the use of a straw, excuse me, and food establishments and service providers are to have them on at hand, but for those that request it. So this will in turn reduce the amount of straws that are used by people. I mean, how many times have you been at a restaurant and the waiter, waitress puts down a pile of straws that don't get used? Well, they all get thrown out. And according to recent statistics, Americans use 500 million plastic straws per day. That's quite a lot of plastic, quite a lot of resources used to make that plastic, keeping in mind that plastic is made from petroleum products, fossil fuels. So we have a serious problem with climate change. We have a serious problem with plastic pollution. And by having these policies in place, we hope to reduce the amount of resources used and reduce the amount of plastics found in our environment. Now, when does this all happen? Let's specifically look at the plastic bags. It applies to everyone, and it goes into effect, this piece of the law goes into effect in May of 2022. There are some exceptions for the distribution of single-use plastic bags. The bags that contain meat and fish, loose items or live animals, as well as dry cleaning and garment bags and newspaper bags are exempt for a period of time. And then there are opportunities for waivers to be given by the DEP based on a review and a hardship to a business for not being able to use the alternatives that are readily and commercially available, which I'll go to that in a few moments. The same thing with the single-use paper bags. It goes into effect in May of 2022. And this applies to the grocery stores over 2,500 square feet. So there still will be paper bags allowed to be given out in the smaller stores. There are no exceptions. Many times paper bags are pretty much just distributed at some of these smaller stores. For single-use plastic straws, this is the law that goes into effect in November. This does not prohibit the sale of these straws at retail stores. So you could still go to a grocery store and buy a box of straws, but they can't be distributed without a request from the customer. Say, for example, at restaurants and at food service places. The styrofoam food service is also the second phase, and that's May of 2022. This pertains to containers, cups, plates, and meat and vegetable trays, egg cartons, and packaging for food service businesses. There are some exemptions up to a certain point, May of 2024. Those are noted here. So many of these things are also allowed if they are already in that packaging from a manufacturer, so that we'll still find some packaging such like this in retail stores because they were sent by the manufacturer. There are currently municipal ordinances in place to address some of these materials that have existed over the past few years, some in local towns to Long Branch. Those will be preemptive. So once this law comes into effect, the state law overrules all of those and overrides all of those ordinances. The statewide law is pretty comprehensive, so it goes beyond most of the ordinances currently in place. And municipalities can't pass additional ordinances regarding these items, but they can do ordinances on other items such as balloons or other plastic types of items like packing peanuts and things like that. So I've gone over the pollution problem. I've gone over the law that's going to come into effect very shortly. I just want to quickly go over the business guide that we've put together to make suggestions for the alternatives that are available now that you have to come into compliance with this new law. These are choices that can be made by businesses that will save you money. It will save the planet. It will make your customers happy. About 86% of people polled in a recent poll would favor using a more sustainable product than over others. So the education about the need to be sustainable is getting out there. Now it's important for our businesses to catch up with that interest and to show a commitment to a sustainable planet. So the things that we recommend for businesses to start off with is to first eliminate a single-use plastic item. If you don't need it, if it's not essential, you could save money by not purchasing it, or maybe not purchasing so many. You can reduce what you can eliminate, as I just said, and you could also replace them with environmentally friendly alternatives, which are around. There's post-consumer content, there's bamboo and sugarcane products that are most preferred based on the whole life cycle impacts of these materials, but I'll get into that in a couple of minutes. But just in terms of looking at your business perspective, or even your personal, family life, eliminate it, reduce the amount you use, and find an alternative. So for example, you could think about it in terms of a yes/no flow chart. Ask yourself, do you need the item? Is it essential or is it required? And if it's not, you can think about actually not ordering it, not using it. You could also think about, are there reusable options for you? And then if there's not, there are single-use alternatives. So it's like a behavior, it's a decision, it's choices that are made. Although the choices are now being mandated by the single-use waste law. So it's important to keep that in mind. So the types of plastic alternatives to replace the single-use disposable items, if you know that you need to have a disposable item, and of course, in restaurant and food service situations, that's probably likely. There are reusable options, and then one single-use options that are disposable that have less of an impact on our planet, but are still commercially available at a decent price for use. So in terms of reusable, stainless steel, glass, and reusable plastics that are rigid and easily washable and reusable are preferable. Always go the reusable route if you can. A lot of businesses are doing some really innovative things where you give discounts for bringing back the cup that you bought or used and getting having a deposit on, things like that. There's a lot of zero waste options out there. For single use, currently the partner organization that we work with, Oceanic Global, and Clean Ocean Action's own science department, recommends bamboo, sugarcane, bagasse, and sustainable paper, sustainable paper products for single-use disposable options. What is not recommended are bioplastics or plastics made from quote unquote natural materials, compostable plastics, biodegradable products sometimes are a little concerning, and corn-based products, mainly because the disposal of them can in fact mess up the recycling process because they are recycled differently. We also don't have a lot of commercially available composting facilities in New Jersey for some of the products that are on the market. And then some of them also still have some plastic in with these natural material items as well. So it's all very confusing for someone that wants to do the right thing and choose the most sustainable and cost-effective material for their alternatives. So for choosing a single-use item, you can think about it in terms of, is it recyclable? Is it compostable? Will the customer be able to properly dispose of it? And so forth. So it's, like I said, it's a decision process. We're still formulating how best to help businesses with this. As the law comes into play, I'm sure there will be some questions that will make us think about, well, maybe we need to ask this question and maybe we need to consider this option. But there are a number of organizations already out there and agencies getting that information out there, and hopefully we can help you with those decisions as well. Same thing with reusable. There's glass, stainless steel, and reusable plastic. Obviously, reusable is the best, as I mentioned earlier. So just going back to some of those items that we said you should say no to. We have don't have the different facilities in our state. I believe in New Jersey, we have 2 commercial composting facilities for some of the bioplastics that are on the market. So our recycling, we have enough problems getting people to recycle correctly and making sure our facilities are doing the work that it needs to do the sorting and separating and the recycling. So it's hard when we have these new materials that we don't know how they break down, or they require different breakdown processes, to mix that in with our traditional conventional recycling, because that can mess up the machinery and the processes we have in place for traditional recycling. And then of course we have some problems along with resource use and genetically modified crops that are used for some of these materials, bioplastics specifically. For plastic compostables, like I said, many places don't have compostable facilities, and many of these cups and containers that are supposedly compostable, quote unquote compostable, are not compostable in backyard compost areas and processes. So they require a commercial compostable composting facility. For biodegradable, just because it says biodegradable and natural doesn't necessarily mean it's all made of natural materials. It's very confusing. For instance, you may have a paper cup that has a plastic coating on the outside, or you may have a plastic cup that's made out of corn as well as plastic. Only a certain percentage is corn or a natural material. So it's very confusing for the customer, citizen, and for the businesses. And of course, we have the amount of energy that's being used to create these confusing alternatives, and some of the times the alternatives are not the best. So Clean Ocean Action has been looking at the alternatives that are available. And then we also, obviously, all of us have been making the switch for some time, but also been thrown a loop with a pandemic and COVID-19 and the concerns about how things are sanitized and so forth. But we have been working with Oceanic Global, which is a international organization that certifies businesses and allows businesses to learn about the most sustainable options available for the alternatives. They in fact have on their website, was very helpful, a place where businesses can go to find the names of commercially available products to replace the ones that you have to switch out. And also they've made agreements with the companies for discounts for the businesses that are trying to make that switch to more sustainable options. In addition, Oceanic Global did respond to the requests from businesses and the concerns for citizens about COVID and the reusable options in the sanitation. And the reusable items have been found to not be any more unsanitary than single-use plastics. We saw a huge jump in the amount of businesses that switched right when the pandemic happened or shortly thereafter, switched over from the more sustainable options to the less sustainable options because of cost, but also because of people's concern for health and safety. So there is a fact sheet available for that, and I'm happy to send the links after to Mariela so she can have that at hand for anyone that requested. But also the DEP is doing their part to educate people about the statewide single waste reduction law and the alternatives available in the bag ban. So they do have a pretty comprehensive website to educate businesses and to direct and guide businesses as this statewide law comes into play. And also the New Jersey Business Action Center I thought had a really good overview of the bag ban and how it affects businesses. There's a timeline for when things go into play, as well as an explanation of how the businesses will be impacted, and the list of the types of establishments that this the various parts of the law applies to. So I encourage you to use the resources available. Of course, Clean Ocean Action is here locally for all of you. If you have any questions, the market of these alternatives is changing every day. So we shy away from recommending certain products because sometimes they change in quality, sometimes they change in pricing, and sometimes they're not available. So we rely on Oceanic Global to do that vetting for our business community and for our citizens. So I encourage you to look at those resources. But I also encourage you to, while you're making the switch to more sustainable options in your businesses and in your daily life, to also get involved in the programs that are educating people about the impacts and how they can be part of the solution through our Beach Sweeps program, which is coming up. We have our next beach cleanup on October 23rd. There are sponsorship opportunities for sites as well as the county and the statewide, and in-kind donations are appreciated at all of our sites for the volunteers that do come out. So please check our website out, cleanoceanaction.org, to learn more about the Beach Sweeps program, to look at the data, and to contact us with any questions that you may have regarding all the information I set out today and all the information that's available and all the questions you may have as we move forward in addressing our plastic pollution crisis here at the Jersey Shore and statewide. So thanks so much for having me today. There was a lot of information in a short period of time. I'm hoping this information will be helpful for all of you. And again, if you have any questions, you can take them now, or you could contact me at your leisure at the office.
Great. Thank you so much, Kari. I really appreciate it. I do have a couple of questions, though.
Sure.
I know that there are many local businesses that are passionate about sustainability. And so the question is, how, I know there are certain packaging that they can use for their products that are 100% recyclable, that come from 100% recyclable containers. Do you know where they can access that, or how they can go about getting information on that?
Sure.
Program?
The Oceanic Global website, as I mentioned, has a lot of information about not only what the alternatives are, but the products that are available through the companies that can, and also coupon codes and discounts for ordering those types of material. So for instance, if you're talking about a food service outlet and they have, for takeout, they are traditionally using the styrofoam clamshell container. There are paper and paperboard alternatives. There's also the aluminum alternatives that, are available for probably the reason why styrofoam is used is because it's cheaper, but it's also very harmful to marine life and lasts a long time. And also for me, crunch easily. But so that information is available through Oceanic Global. I'm happy to send anyone the link. The DEP website also has some information about those availability, but I want to just be clear to mention about the recycling. So for years, we've been trained on how to, that we need to recycle, and it's important to recycle, and it's important to do it in correct ways, making sure it's clean and making sure it's separated. We can't recycle our way out of this pollution crisis. You can have something that's 100% recyclable, but if it doesn't get to the place in the right way, it doesn't get recycled. And I believe nationally, only 9% of the plastics get recycled in the nation. So New Jersey has a higher percentage for our recycling rate, but it's important to note that we need to reduce making this plastic stuff because it is such a problem to get rid of. And it is so confusing to find the alternatives to replace those. So we need to focus on making the non-plastic alternatives a priority and commercially and easily available and easy understandable, and move away from these plastic items in the first place, because our recycling is quite a mess. And we are, one of the things I want to mention related to this law as a follow-up is Senator Smith in New Jersey has been championing not only this law, but also the next, as a follow-up, is a recycled content bill, which is currently in the Senate and the Assembly. It's going to require manufacturers to use recycled content in the packaging in New Jersey, so that we further reduce the amount of single-use packaging waste in New Jersey. So we're currently trying to address the recycling crisis by using the materials we already have and closing that recycling loop by using the items in the recycling bin to make more items. So there's a lot going on. There's also the New Jersey Restaurant and Hospitality Association. Also, we've been working with them to try to get some informational webinars as well for direct information to businesses about these types of alternatives available.
Right. And you do bring up a valid point about our recycling system. A lot of people don't realize that in order to recycle your plastics, you need to clean them before just throwing them in the recycling bin.
Right. I mean, not only does it prevent, critters from finding it out in the recycling container, but it also, it provides for a cleaner process, and it helps the recyclers get the product in a manner that is sellable to be made into other things.
Sure. Quick question. I'm just kind of curious. I'm sure we are all anxious to comply with this new law, but what are the consequences? Will there be fines? Will there be 3 strikes, you're out?
Well, I think especially, with this sweeping law coming into play kind of in the middle of the pandemic. I know that New York had a bag ban that came into effect during the pandemic, and they had a buffer time for enforcement and compliance. But as of right now, there are fines for not complying with the law. It's $1,000 to $5,000 depending on what it is and how many times it's if they're found guilty of doing it or not doing it actually. So there are enforcement measures and compliance measures, and the DEP as well as the county will be the enforcement agencies in arms for this law. Hopefully, and towns as well. Hopefully, with more education and outreach from the state level, as well as our county, as well as our organizations, we can help get into compliance quickly without any, onerous fining for businesses that need to, catch up and comply.
All right. And my last question, I would be very interested in getting a copy of the business guide to reducing single-use plastic items. Now, is that available on your website? Is it an actual physical guide?
It's not yet on our website. I've been testing it out with our business communities and our presentation, but I'm happy to send you a copy of it for those of you on the call today.
Absolutely.
And we'll put it on our website. We're in the process of updating our website into I would say probably the 21st century. We are going to be adding a lot of great content that hopefully will be helpful to businesses and citizens alike. So I can send that over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Kari. I'm wondering if our audience has any final questions or comments for Kari. If not, Kari, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your valuable advice with our community. It's certainly, an extremely important and relevant topic nowadays. So thank you once again. I do want to share, and I did find it, I do want to share our contact information. Just give me 1 second. I wonder if can you see that? Not sure if
Yeah.
you can see that. Okay, there we are. Okay. So if you have any questions, if you're interested in receiving the business guide, you can contact me at the library. Here's my email address, Kari's contact information. You see her website as well as her email. So please feel free to reach out to us with any questions, comments, or requests that you may have. And once again, thank you everyone for joining us. And we hope to, I want to remind everyone that we do have our small business workshops once a month. Check out our website for the days always vary, but it's usually on a Wednesday at 1 o'clock, Wednesdays at 1. So we hope to see you again in the near future. And thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Mariella. Thank you, Long
Thank
Branch
you, Kari.
Library.